Hello to my party people out there on Radio Land. Welcome to this week's transmission. This week is who runs the show? Who's guarding your soul? So, these days, there is so much thought and so much attention given to the physical body. We put a lot of thought, and we're told to put a lot of thought into what we are ingesting, what we're putting in our mouths, right? Via diet, nutrition, how we are caring for our skin, if we are consuming enough water, the good things that we are putting into our body versus the bad things. There is a lot of that so as to guard or protect our bodies. But my question is, who is guarding the eyes and ears so as to protect our souls? So we know how to watch our minds, right? We know how to watch our intellectual intake in order to protect our minds. But who has realized that the internal routes that lead to our minds also leads to our souls? So you can live without your mind, right? That's why there's such thing as comas or dementia. You can live without your mind, but the physical body cannot live without a soul. So no matter how you look at it, even focusing too heavily on your diet, right? The physical aspect of yourself, or root chakra stuff, is not a good thing. It's not the way to spiritual ascension, despite what all of the spiritual gurus will have you to believe. So I'm not saying, of course, don't pay attention to your physical body or your diet or your intake. Because obviously a healthy body goes a long way in this life, right? You kind of need that, like, right? I ain't saying just like give it up and then, get diabetes and, lose a limb and all that. No, you need that stuff. Like I'm not going that far left field. But what I am saying is that focusing too heavily on your spiritual evolution or awakening by way of the physical realm is counterproductive, right? So you saying that you're trying to get to the next level, you're trying to ascend, but you're going to a higher plane, right? Spiritual plane, esoteric. But yet, and still, you're doing it by going through a very tangible, a very physical doorway. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. You don't protect your body to get to your soul. You protect your soul to get to your body. So if you focus on the soul, then the physical or bodily stuff will all fall into place. Right? It doesn't necessarily work the other way around. So, okay, you have healthy people who act like they don't have souls, right? And you have healthy bodies who lose their souls, right? Who transition. Because an unhappy or long ignored soul, it will vacate its body, right? No matter how well cared for or tended or pretty or polished that body is, right? So you can say, a lot of people say, well, if I start eating right and I start exercising and start taking care of my body, then I will be able to move up the chakras and become more in tune with the universe and more spiritual and in tune with myself. Maybe, but I feel like that's the most marketed way of spiritual ascension. But if you go about it spiritual to physical, then it happens faster. And it's a completely different process, right? So once you get your mind right, then all of the physical stuff will fall into place, right? You shouldn't focus on the physical to get to the spiritual. You should focus on the spiritual. And then once you're there, everything else underneath that and all of the other lower chakras will just make sense. It'll just make sense for you to be taking care of your body, and to be mindful of the things that you are ingesting and things like that, right? Because you're coming from the top, right? You're coming from the crown chakras, and then you're just working your way down. And even within the spiritual community, there is a discrepancy between that. Like, okay, I'm an energy healer certified, and I was taught, start from the root chakra and work your way up, right? That's, you are moving people's energy from the lower chakras to the higher chakras. Okay, that makes sense. But there's also a school of thought that says start from the top chakras and work your way down, right? Because you're bringing all of that energy and the energy, your connection to the world, and you are healing and balancing out those lower chakras, right? And that's where you're ending at. So either way, depends on how you look at it. But yeah, so the soul runs the show, right? That's what you want to appease. That's who you want to appease, right? Because at the end of the day, if your soul is not happy, then your body, it doesn't matter. People, rich people, healthy people, fitness gurus, they die like all the time. And that's why you have this so-called flu epidemic that's going on. And they're like, all these young, healthy people are dying. Like, how is this possible? And it's like, healthy people die too, y'all. If you recognize the connection between the spirit, the soul, the body, the mind, then you could very well see how a person in perfect health could pass or transition. Or how you have people who transition and the cause of death is unknown. It's like, oh, they were completely healthy. We don't know what happened. It's because their soul left. Obviously, their body was fine and they were, taking care of that, but they lost touch of the fact that the soul runs the show. And just even as an example, like, think about people who hate their jobs or who are unhappy in their lives, who are doing things every day that kill their soul, essentially, right? But they have the material things, they have the outward manifestations of success, they have the physical stuff, but at the end of the day, that still does not appease their soul. And that's what I was getting at when I was talking about focusing too heavily on diet, focus too heavily on the physical to get to the spiritual, to get to those higher realms. It's counterproductive, and even counterintuitive if you think about it. So in my personal life, just even with like fashion, like that's how you express yourself, right? Everybody expresses themselves. That's an expression of your soul. And I just know personally, situations where my soul and my body did not align. Excuse me. And that can happen. Most people don't realize that, but it happens. In a perfect world, they align all the time, but there are moments when your soul will speak and it will not say what your body is saying. So for example, I've had to make accommodations to my body on behalf of my soul, right? My soul wanted to do this. My soul wanted to express itself. It wanted to wear this. But my body was like, it's too cold. I'm going to be cold. This does not make any sense. But my soul was like, no, I want to be free. I want to do this. So it's kind of like I had to appease the soul and kind of meet it in the middle. Like, all right, I guess I'm just going to have to be a little cold today. Like, and in the end, like, it all worked out. Something amazing always happens when I do that. Like, your soul, it has its own distinct voice. So your job is to just remember that that's what you want to appease to. That's what you want to appease, or that's what you want to appeal to, right? Your soul. Everything else it's nonsense, really. It's secondary. It's ancillary, right? If you don't realize the show isn't the soul is in charge, then you wasting your time. And I said that. And that's all I got to say. Thank you for listening. Have a magnificent week. Love, live, light, laughter. Bye.